This is my progress report so far on my copper coat job, January 2021. This is my 38-foot Island Spirit catamaran, built in 2013. We hauled out at Reback Marina Shipyard, Reback Island, Langkawi. And here's a picture of the Reback Marina, and the shipyard's in the top corner. We'll start the video on the port side inner hull, and you can see that it's now really neat and tidy and ready for further work. I used 120 grit sandpaper to do the whole of the boat after we used the 40 grit. Here's some areas that still need a little bit of attention. I need to cut it back to see whether it's just roughage or whether there's any water leak there. So you can see that the bottom of the keel has some water leaks still with the holes where I'm using the vacuum cleaner to drain it out. And I'll be putting epoxy matting, probably 3 or 4 layers right along both keels actually. And you saw there's some damage there on the join between the keel and the hull, and then there's a little bit of damage on the forward part of the keel. I had the stainless steel shaft repaired, and you can see here the damage to the port rudder that needs to be cut more out. Foam put in and epoxy filled and clamped to epoxy some matting around the edges. Here's the starboard side, and like the port side I used 120 grit and it came up very well, and I'm more than happy with the finish. And the keel on the starboard side came up well, and there's still some roughage and damage, but the trim looks rather good, neat. I decided to remove all the copper coat and bring it right back so that I can run a matte trim around the edges to prevent more leaks. You can see some little bit of damage where water's getting in on the bottom of the starboard rudder, so that's why I need to put the matting around the edge and epoxy it. On the outside of the starboard hull, you can see where we've used the 120 grit, and it's come up very well. I'm happy with this side. There's still that roughage on the join between the hull and the keel that I need to have a further look at, but otherwise I've just got that water moisture problem near the front of the starboard hull, and we'll solve that in due course. And here is one of the sources of that moisture, and water's been running out of that hole for nearly a week. I think that I'll be drilling a hole in the bottom of the hull just prior to the depth sounder, and here's that dried out damage and hole that has to be repaired on the starboard keel. Still a little bit of water seeping out, but we'll fill those drill holes with some epoxy and cover the hole with matting. We'll fill the rectangular hole with some of this board. Before we mat over the top of it, I'll probably put 4 layers of mat in along all the keels and rudders, and then epoxy over it. And I've still got to think about how to repair this damage. So this short video was produced by myself, and it's the end of the progress report on my copper coat job, January 2021.